It's hard to make the claim that any 1990 Fleer baseball cards are really most valuable from a monetary standpoint. And even among the overproduced cards from the first year in a decade noted for, well, overproduction, 1990 Fleer baseball cards seem especially plentiful. Still, that doesn't mean 1990 Fleer cards have no value. In fact, you may have been following the interesting saga of the 1990 Fleer Jose Uribe card, which some have ludicrously claimed is a rare and valuable card. To be clear, it's neither, but it is eye-popping to look at some of those asking prices. Instead of playing into the hype, though, it's more instructive and genuine when looking into which 1990 Fleer cards hold some real value to examine how much they actually sold for. What follows is the list of the 10 1990 Fleer cards with the highest sell prices on eBay in PSA 10 or PSA 9 condition within a couple of months of this writing. For reference, the card Frank Thomas comes in at around $10, while Travis Fryman at the bottom is about $1. Everything else falls in between. In 1989, Frank Thomas emerged from Auburn University and almost immediately started putting the big hurt on major league pitchers. Okay, at least by the next summer. By the middle of the decade, Thomas was putting up numbers reminiscent of the great Ted Williams, and many thought he might develop into the greatest all-around hitter ever. He slowed down as he aged, but Thomas still finished with monster numbers that included 521 home runs, 1,704 RBI, nearly 1,500 runs, more than 2,400 hits, and a lifetime average 301. While he had other, more high-profile rookie cards, 1990 Leaf for example, the 1990 Fleer Update card of the 2014 Hall of Fame inductee is an overlooked gem that can still be had for reasonable sums. In 1990, Mark McGwire enjoyed a rebound season that saw him slam 39 home runs, the most he had logged since his Rookie of the Year campaign in 1987. That performance helped the Oakland A's get back to the World Series, where they were swept by the Cincinnati Reds, and served notice that Big Mac was back. Of course, he'd go on to break Roger Maris's single-season home run record, smacking 70 in 1998, before steroids debacle tarnished his Bunyan-esque feats. Will Mark McGwire ever make it to Cooperstown? Hard to say at this point, but this card remains popular, as evidenced by this entry's high standing among its contemporaries. McGwire's running mate, or mortal foe, during that magical season of 1998, Sammy Sosa, also surpassed Maris's, but finished second in the homer race. Never mind that, though, because Sammy nabbed the National League MVP award and then went on to hit 60 homers in a season 2 more times. Another player whose legacy was decimated by PEDs, Sosa started Major League Baseball life as a more slender and toolsy outfielder who could steal bases, hit home runs, and just be pretty lively in general. That's the version we see here on this 1990 Fleer rookie card. In 1990, Ken Griffey Jr. was still more about potential than production. While he had finished third in voting for the 1989 American League Rookie of the Year balloting, he did so with only 16 homers, 16 stolen bases, and an unaspiring .264 batting average. It didn't take long for the kid to ramp things up from there, and he soon took his rightful place as one of the 2 or 3 best players in the game. When he finally wrapped up his career in 2010, his stat line looked like a video game high score table. 630 home runs, 1,836 RBI, 1,662 runs, nearly 2,800 hits, and even 184 stolen bases. Not surprisingly, Griffey's cards have been among the most popular in the hobby since his 1989 debut, and this early junior entry still sells well, though at reasonable prices. By 1990, Nolan Ryan was just turning 98 years old, but still had plenty of gas in the tank. Enough time for 4 more seasons, in fact. That kept him in the major leagues through 1993 and allowed him to amass more than 5,000 strikeouts and 300 wins, not to mention his 7 no-hitters. Ryan didn't land with the Texas Rangers until 1989, but he became synonymous with the team thanks to his Texas swagger and the records he smashed in the red, white, and blue Rangers garb. And since 1990 was the first time base sets showed the Ryan Express with Texas, they're popular among collectors. You don't hear much about him today, but man, David Justice was a legitimate phenomenon in the early 1990s. This dude had it all. Good looks, sweet swing, a strong young team around him, a movie star wife, Halle Berry. Oh, and he could also smack the stuffing out of a baseball. Justice won the National League Rookie of the Year award in 1990 with 28 home runs and 78 RBI, the same year his rookie card hit the hobby shelves. Though his star waxed and waned over the years, Justice still tallied 305 homers and a 14-year career, and his early cardboard remains popular. In 1990, Randy Johnson was still a mystery, a monster arm with control problems who had Hall of Fame potential, but more questions than strikeouts. The year before, though, the Montreal Expos had sent the man who would later become the big unit to the Seattle Mariners, and it was there that Johnson would blossom as a pitcher. 19 years and nearly 300 additional victories later, Johnson finally hung up his spikes with no doubt about his Cooperstown credentials. All of the unit's cards, including early career junk wax goodies like 1990 Fleer, keep collectors interested all these years later. Juan Gonzalez kind of got lost in the shuffle of the home run barrage during the late 1990s and the early 2000s, and especially because he sort of flamed out in his early to mid-30s. But there were few sluggers as feared as Juan Gon through most of the 1990s, and he won 2 American League MVP awards with Texas in 1996 and 1998. At one time, this 1990 rookie card sat near the top of the new card mountain and still pulls decent collector interest today. Omar Vizquel started his major league life as a light-hitting, slick-fielding shortstop. That's never been a golden combination for unlocking big card values. But Omar kept showing up for 24 years and improved his bat enough along the way to eventually accumulate nearly 2,900 hits and more than 400 stolen bases. He's also something of a legend in the Cleveland Indian lore, and his cards are just about as strong as ever. Travis Fryman came to the Detroit Tigers in the early 1990s, just as Alan Trammell and Lou Whitaker were starting to round out their Hall of Fame careers. The young shortstop and third baseman was supposed to help Detroit bridge the gap to the next great era in Tiger baseball. Well, Fryman did his part, mostly, hitting about 20 homers a year during his 8 seasons in Motown. The Tigers didn't do much during that stretch, though, and Fryman ended up in Cleveland from 1998 to 2002. And then, at just age 33, Fryman was done. Still, Fryman finished with 223 home runs and nearly 1,800 hits, and enough of a following to keep his rookie cards from sliding into obscurity. Like this video? Then like this video, and subscribe to our channel, waxpackgods.com.